Welcome to Surviving Roots, the podcast where we journey through the complexities of our emotions together. I'm your host, Carrie Fund, and I'm here to guide you on a path of self-discovery, understanding, and healing. In each episode, we'll explore a range of emotions and experiences, from navigating grief and trauma to managing stress and anxiety. Through candid conversations, expert insights, and practical strategies, we'll uncover the tools you need to navigate life's emotional landscape with resilience and grace. So, let's embark on this transformative journey together. Take a deep breath. Allow yourself this time. This podcast is for you. Sélénée brings the transformative power of family constellations to help people heal from family wounds and find individual blocks rooted in the family system. Her clients are able to get the root of their pain in order to not only heal themselves, but the generations before and after them. You can read about her work in her book, Connected Fates, Separate Destinies, published by Hay House, and listen to her podcast, Tell Me Your Story, where she shares her passion for family constellation therapy. Welcome, Maureen.
Thank you so much, Carrie, for the invitation.
Thank you so much for being here today. I just have to let everyone know we've actually met in person.
Yes.
A friend of mine recommended that I contact you and sort of get an experience with constellation therapy. And I didn't even know what that was, but I trusted her and I didn't hesitate and I booked an appointment with you immediately. You graciously came to my home and you spent about 2 transformative hours with me. Within that time, layers of my experience were unveiled. I broke down and cried a lot, and I absorbed all of your invaluable insights. And I felt a profound shift within me that honestly, I can say today has still remained almost 2 years later. The one session with you people, let me just tell you, completely created a shift where I went from such a painful state to a powerful one. So thank you. I owe you a huge thank you.
No, thank you. Thank you, Carrie. I'm very happy for you, really. Like, you know what? It's always an honor to work, thank you so much. Thank you.
Well, I just want to get started because everything you do is so interesting. And I wish if you could, Maureen, start off by explaining what is constellation therapy for those who might not be familiar with it.
Yeah, sure. So, family constellation therapy is all about healing from your family system, from your story, from your past, from any inherited traumas, patterns, behaviors. Basically, it has everything to do with your family, okay, your family story, and not only your own generation with your own siblings, but as well your parents, your grandparents, maybe even your great grandparents.
Yeah.
And it is so transformative, like you were just saying, that I love it, like every time I'm amazed about how it works and how powerful it is.
Wow, you must really just with your clients, there must just be some profound and just amazing stories, almost like maybe you're watching just like a movie with all of your clients' lives. I just think it would be so interesting. I would love to sneak in and sit in on those sessions, but I'm pretty sure that's illegal. What led you to specialize in this? Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what led you to focus on family constellation therapy?
Yeah, sure. So I was born and raised in France, Paris, the Frenchy accent. And so I studied psychology because I wanted to become a psychologist. But when I graduated, I was like, yeah, I don't know. You know what? I could not really connect, with pure psychology. So that's when actually I decided to move to the United States. And long story short, after my very painful first divorce at 24, I discovered family constellations.
Yeah.
And I really think I fell in love with that modality because I wanted to understand my father and even more my family on my father's side because I did not have that much information.
Okay.
My father was abandoned by his own father, very difficult relationship with his mom. and very difficult relationship with his children.
Yeah.
Because I got divorced at 24, and 2 years before, my father made the decision to disown his children after a divorce with my mother. He
Hmm.
did not accept it, so he vanished as well.
Wow.
And it was a lot in 2 years
Yeah, that's a lot. Wow.
in regard to the masculine and being supported by. So I felt so much peace, understanding, and relief, I would say, through it on a personal level. So
Hmm.
I was like, this is what I want to do. This is a real deal here. That's how you heal.
Yeah. So
And
family constellation therapy puts you on that path, your own path to healing as well.
yes, exactly. I mean, I don't think you can become a therapist without healing, no matter
Yeah.
what, like with a modality, with a therapy. And family constellations, for 1 year, again, I worked on myself. I really wanted to merge, into it, like understand what was about it, like, and then I was like, yeah, that's what it is. You know what? Like,
Yeah.
that's what I want to dedicate my career.
Wow, that is so amazing. And that is the perfect example. This podcast is all about turning your pains into your potential. And that's a perfect example of how you've done that. And
Yeah.
also, I mean, that gives a lot of listeners what generational trauma is. I mean, because you're talking about your dad's upbringing and how that's affected his own parenting. So that's like the perfect example to everyone that's listening about what this generational trauma is and like the types of cycles that we can break, whether we're parents or not, just human beings.
So, first of all, science in the 80s finally backed up, like, yes, it is true from generation to generation through your cells, you
Hmm.
pass on trauma. Okay.
Wow.
Like, that's what it is. Why is that? It's because your family system is always looking for reconciliation, for healing, for reparation. So, if the current generation is not taking full responsibility for their
Hmm.
behaviors, situations, events, whatever is going on, the next generation, so maybe your next child, will
Yeah.
have to take care of it. Not because he wants to take care of it, but because he wants to belong.
Yeah.
So it's out of loyalty. I am going to become like my parents, like my grandparents, like maybe a missing or estranged uncle, or maybe, a lot of women in my family system were sexually abused. Unfortunately, I am going to repeat the pattern,
Yeah.
or the pattern of addictions, or the pattern of infertility, anxiety, bankruptcy, like, but it's just in the name of belonging.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
it's important to understand, because I hear sometimes my clients say, Maureen, it's a curse in my family.
Yeah.
There is no curse. It
Yeah.
does not exist. It's only because you want to belong. So even so, it's going to cost you your life. Even so, it's going to be painful, like to your own destiny. You are willing to do it in the sake of belonging, being seen, heard, and recognized by your family.
Wow, that's heartbreaking.
Yes.
Unless you take unless you own your power and you really go to change your ways. I mean, I know for me, it all started with my mother, like my estrangement with my mother, to give me that space and say, I didn't want to do this. I didn't want to be like this. I won't be like this parent. I'll be like the parent like I wish I had. But then even with that decision, then comes the work. And so that's why I contacted you, because I wanted to understand, like, okay, what is generational trauma? Like, how did my family dynamics get like this? Where did this come from? And when you came to my house, I mean, I'm a very visual person. So this kind of therapy was completely for me because I've only been to traditional therapy one time in my 20s when my pain was like I was suffocating. It was at its highest. And I went in, I sat on this lady's couch. I lied the entire time and I never went back. And it wasn't then until I realized, a couple years later, you got to be honest with yourself first. You got to be willing to be honest with yourself first before you can actually help yourself. Um, but even then, like traditional therapy for me, I just didn't want to like keep talking and like then having to come up with the answers. Like I'm a visual person. And when you came to my house, I want you to walk people through what a session is like, but you came in with a notepad and some rubber rainbow colored footprints and it was a party. And I like shifted in such a way. So can you please tell everybody listening, like walk us through a typical constellation therapy session? What can a client expect when they meet with you?
So you got the in-person session with a rainbow footprint,
Yeah.
which is cute. It's a cute way. So no matter what, so the first initial session is a 2-hour session. So first hour, I ask you questions about what you would like to work on, and then questions about your family, your parents, grandparents, your childhood, teenager years and everything. I just want to highlight here that whatever you know is more than enough.
Okay.
Because of course, maybe you were adopted and you don't know, like anything
Yeah.
about biological parents.
Wow.
Do not think it's any blockages, like no, not at all. It's actually a great indication you were adopted.
Yeah.
Adoption is also a lack of belonging, for example. Okay.
Okay.
So I just ask a lot of questions. Then I do a meditation because I love calling the family, being behind you and feeling not alone in that process. Because family constellations not only heal your own life, but has an impact on 7 generations, 3 before you and 3 after you. That's also why I love that work. And then it's a constellation. So with you, Carrie, I use footsteps, like rainbow footsteps. Each footstep is going to represent either a situation, a person, or an emotion. And I ask Carrie to place them on the floor, which creates, like the constellation. When you are in a workshop setting, people will be the footsteps.
Yeah.
And when you are online with me remotely, I use cards.
Okay.
What happens just using cards or footsteps or people, it's now we are working with your subconscious, the unexpressed emotions, like the secrets, like your body is also going to maybe having some tensions, sensations, like, oh, I feel tightness on my chest, or I feel that I am blind, I am
Mhm.
deaf, like whatever it is. And at that moment, we are finally channeling the truth of your story. Because the first part is your conscious. But I mean, you can tell me whatever you want.
Yeah.
You can tell me I love my mom or I hate my mom, but then in the constellation on a subconscious level, maybe it's like I'm craving for my mom or I still hate her, like
Yeah.
that's where true healing happen. I mean, healing, it's basically realigning your subconscious and conscious together.
Hmm.
So the story in itself is pointless.
Yeah.
We are so much addicted to our story like an excuse. But
Yeah.
I want your story to become an excuse. I want you to show up and take full responsibility
Yeah.
by saying, for example, yes, I started drinking at 15 years old because I wanted to connect with my dad because it was the only way. Was it his fault? Yes and no. Yes, because your father, like was also just copying his own father, to belong. And maybe your father could have done the work. Maybe
Hmm.
your father, could have said, stop, no more. He did not. So now at 35, this is you taking full responsibility. I want to break free now.
Yeah.
Then my own son won't have to think, oh my God, in order to connect with my dad, I
Yeah.
have to as well.
Yeah. I know, like, as a visual person, being able to see the constellation that you laid out on my living room floor. With me, I had the footprints or the footsteps. It was so powerful and magical because I was able to see things like, for example, how like my inner child, like how my footsteps were pointing towards my inner child, showing me that my inner child is the reason I'm always in fight or flight and I have such anxiety because she had been running the show all of these years. You got so specific within my story and my pain. You helped me honestly heal even more. And I actually walked away with more compassion for my parents, even though they're the ones that gave me, a lot of pain and laid out this groundwork. It really humanized them, and I was able to step back and have more compassion. I was able to see really have a better glimpse of where I was at on my own healing journey. I was a little more further along than I had given myself credit to. And I was able to really see like my grandparents and just, as a parent, especially because the reason I'm doing this work honestly wasn't at first to make myself feel better. I was scared. I was having kids, I was becoming a mother, and I thought, how can I do this without a guidebook? I don't want to be the parent that I had. And I just threw myself into healing and I didn't even know the work. I thought I was going to meditate. I thought I was going to, say I forgive myself, but when you meet that hurt inner child, man, it's a party you better be ready to to
To
dance.
enjoy, to
Yeah,
enjoy.
she came out and she wasn't going back in the same way. So it really just showed me that like the trauma can just be buried so deep, and the importance of really understanding our stories and our parents' stories and so on. Um, I would love to know. So, could you give us like the top cup, like key benefits of constellation therapy? Like, if someone's listening right now and be like, "Ooh, this might be something I really need." What would you say are like the key benefits?
I would say, first of all, the power of understanding where you came from.
Hmm.
Without understanding, there is no healing. I mean, you got to understand your past. You
Yeah,
got to understand your family story. Even so, it's a lot of secrets and everything, because by understanding what came first,
yeah,
then you can finally understand your own behaviors, your own relationships with others. Like most of the time, especially if you have been doing so much work on yourself and you are still clueless, or you are still struggling with the same pattern over and over again,
yeah.
it's because your answers are waiting for you in your family story, in your family system.
Wow.
And I understand that sometimes it's just like, oh my God, really? Like I have to go back there, like,
Yeah,
but this is where you came from. Whether you like it or not, I don't care. What I care about is that you accept and respect it.
yeah,
Because that acceptance and respect towards your past, your heritage,
yeah,
your first system ever is going to give you the acceptance, respect, and that connection with life that you have been waiting for.
yeah,
Because your family system is in charge of gifting you life. Okay? And when you are upset, when you are angry, when you are frustrated, like whatever you are, you cannot fully engage and merge with life,
yeah,
which creates lack of abundance, lack of love, difficult relationship with yourself, with your body, even with your children, with your partner. So that's the first foundation. That's your foundation that you have to take care of. So first, the power of understanding where you came from.
hmm,
Then I would say peace. So many of my clients say, Maureen, I feel lighter and more
hmm.
at peace.
100%.
And I think we need it,
Yeah,
especially in our world right now.
yeah,
I mean, when we are not at peace, what does it mean? We're angry. Okay. Like maybe not with everything and everyone, but we're still angry.
hmm,
And an angry person is a dangerous one too.
yeah,
Because when you are angry, unfortunately, you can be angry towards your children, towards a stranger, towards a colleague at work. And it's just a ripple effect because we're all connected. So if you give me your anger, I'm going to be angry too. So I'm going to pass on that anger. So peace and light, Carrie. And then the third thing I would say is finally feeling whole, feeling I have a place, I belong. Because
hmm,
again, we have been seeing it in our current society, that lack of identity, that lack of place, of belonging. Again, it's a danger, I'm sorry, for our society.
yeah. You brought up so many good points. We are truly connected through our stories. We have so much more in common than I think we'll ever realize it if we could just get honest with ourselves and our stories and where we come from. And I think peace, what you mentioned with peace, I mean, when people say, well, what do you want most in life? And they think I'm going to say, I want the book deal, or I want the podcast numbers, or I want, whatever. It's peace. If you have peace, you are the richest person in the world. Peace, peace, peace. Because with that, you can do anything. Um, I would love to know. So you're based in Miami.
Yes.
You're based in Miami. So how can people book a session with you, and what are the options again? I know you said in person, and then you mentioned your events. Can you tell us a little bit about how you
Um,
offer your
yeah,
family
so
constellation therapy sessions?
right now I'm based in Miami and I also offer workshops in Miami in person. I'm very grateful for Zoom because I work remotely too, and I work with Australia or France or Hungary. Like, I mean, it's amazing actually to connect with people that I will never be maybe able to connect with, like um, in person. And then I also offer workshops in New York and California, San Diego and LA. And then, of course, like you were saying, I have my book, Connected Fate, Separate Destinies, if you would like to dive deeper into Family Constellations work. My podcast as well, Tell Me Your Story. I mean, I think I'm pretty easy to connect with. You know what? Like, it's not to
Yeah,
brag, but I'm from France. I have my Frenchy accent. It's been 15 years in the United States. I really want to democratize and desacralize, healing. I
yeah,
think it should not be seen as something shameful. Oh my God, like she's seeing someone.
yeah,
I think it's actually the best investment ever in your entire life. And if you take care of your past and your family, I mean, 90% of the work is done. Like,
yeah,
you know what? Like, then have fun with the rest of the 10% left. But
yeah.
I think we should all, like at some point, face ourselves and our shadows. Like, it is so powerful and liberating. Like, I mean, yeah.
I mean, the constellation that you created in front of me was sort of became my roadmap. I saw where I came from, I saw where I wanted to go, and I saw like, what cycles I sort of really needed to break. So the constellation sort of is like a created roadmap on, putting you on the path to healing and just living your best life with peace and clarity. I mean, I don't know if you could ask for anything more than that. Really,
Yeah. I
it's
mean,
like a guide. Like, here's your constellation. Now go live your best life.
exactly, and that's how I see it. You know what? Thank you so much, Carrie. It's like a roadmap for me. I'm like with my clients, I'm like, listen, if you don't want to work with me anymore, that's okay, like, but this is what I see, that you should work on, like, so then you can just create the life that you want. And
Yeah.
I think anyone living on planet Earth, poor, rich, like any religions, any cultures, any genders, we deserve to be happy,
Oh, yes.
period.
Yeah. And happy people create a future
Happy world.
happy people and a happy world. So it's cause
Exactly.
and effect. Um, I wanted to ask you, so I did one session with you. Is this, sometimes when people are in traditional therapy, it could last 30 years. How does this work? Like, I had an amazing session with you 2 years ago, and will my constellation be different now? Like, do I do another
Oh,
session? Like, how
it
does that work?
it will be different because you have changed, Carrie,
Yeah.
like, and it will be a different theme and maybe pattern and maybe healing, like whatever is going on in your life. But I have three different types of clients.
Okay.
First type clients, I'm already working with a therapist, Maureen, but she mentioned family constellation. So I would love to do a session with you. I'm like, sure, you know what? Like, here, this is what I see. Sometime they're going to do a follow-up, because really focusing, on family trauma. And
Mhm.
then they just go back, working with a therapist. Okay. Second type of clients is I'm looking for a therapist. I love your style. I love your vibe. Like, because it's important also to find your person, with whom
Yeah.
you connect. And then we can work with me, Carrie. It's from 6 months to 3 years maximum.
Okay.
Because as former psychologist, I do not believe. in 30 years of therapy, especially with the same person. I
Yeah.
think you just keep talking over and over again the same thing, and then it creates a codependency. And I
Yeah.
am against codependency because at the end of the day, this is 1 hour with us, like together, but then I want you to live your life. I want you to experience your life,
Yeah.
like, and not be cautious about it and tell me, okay, Marine, this, I got it. I'm so proud of me. Yeah,
Yeah.
Marine, still my weakness. Okay, let's keep working on that. So here, depending, of course, if it's for sexual trauma, molestation, like this is huge trauma here, Carrie. So it might take more than 2 years, like, of
Yeah.
course. But if it's more like, I just want to know myself, I just want to understand myself, I mean, just a 6 months, like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, but
Yeah.
I always, and it's been 10 years now that I've been, doing my work, offering my work. Like I always say, I am honest with my clients. When the work is done, it's done. And
Yeah.
then I'm like, it's like a maintenance. You can always book a session with Marine, once, twice a year if you just need, like some polishing, and that's it.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's up to you. And then the third type clients, it's really like, I am curious about it. I watch another self, or my wife books a session. It happens a lot. So I am here. I don't know really what to expect from them, Carrie. I'm like, okay, I'm just going to give my best. And then if
Yeah.
you still want to keep working with me, because I'm always like, therapy is very personal. And
Yeah.
I mean, it makes me laugh, of course, when it's like, yeah, my wife asked me to see you. Okay, hide your joy.
Yeah.
Take also responsibility, like, because I mean, I can talk to you for 2 hours, but if you're not in it, just don't do that. You know what? Like, just save your money, and be honest with your wife. Like, I don't want to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm making a note right now to book a session with you. I mean, everyone that's listening, I don't push any kind of method for healing. I don't say you should go to therapy because honestly, I don't do traditional therapy. But family constellation therapy with Maureen was such a magical experience. I just feel like even if you feel like you don't have trauma, but you want to understand your family, or your family history, because maybe you're not even aware of parts of your story. It is such a wild experience. And it was so healing. I mean, one day, I don't know, maybe it was like one day, maybe a year ago, someone was like, if you could say one thing to your mother, what would it be? And I haven't been estranged from my mom for 15 years. And you know what the first thing that came to my mind? I laughed during the interview and then I felt terrible, is I would love to just tell her to get a new therapist. She has been codependent on the same therapist probably for decades and decades, and nothing's changed. And honestly, if I were to ever contact my mom, I would want to just send her your website, not say anything, but just send her your website, because you can get so much in just 1 2 hour session with you. Like, it's transformative, people. I could not express this enough. I really can't.
You carry. I just want to add something that you say, yes, that you just said. Everyone has trauma because trauma
Yeah.
is a big word, okay?
Okay.
Trauma is anything that you did not understand.
Okay. Good
So
to
it
know.
can be as like you wanted to grab a cookie, that your mom was making cookies and just say no. And for you, maybe it's a trauma.
Yeah.
Trauma is anything that you are unable to process.
Okay.
It can be, of course, like sexual abuse, violence, like huge things, war stories, but it's anything that you are unable to process and understand at that time.
Wow, that's very good to know,
Just, yeah, that's it.
especially for people who are parenting kids. That's so if let's say if you're the mom that smacks your kid's hand or something like that, like how do you as parents today, like how do we become aware of that we're not traumatizing our kids? Like what are some tips to not create trauma? Because we all have our things. We're all human. We all make mistakes. Is it apologizing? Is it not letting your children feel alone during those experiences? Like what are some tips as a parent? And I didn't even plan on asking you this, but you just scared me to death when you said trauma is any experience that's unprocessed. So please, Maureen, how do we not traumatize people?
So, so first of all, I'm not a mother. Okay. So, uh, whenever, I give advice, it comes really from a place of I have been taking care of those adults, for the past 10 years. Okay.
Yes.
Like, because being a mother, high five, girls, really high five. I really think what makes the difference is communication.
Okay.
And I know you are tired, especially if you work, especially if you're a single mom too, and you're really trying your best. Okay.
Yeah.
I would say that every time you catch yourself like, shoot, like I yelled, I screamed, like I did not explain everything. I lost my patience. Go back to your child and tell her, first of all, I'm sorry. You know what? My reaction was too much or was inappropriate.
Mm-hmm.
I told you this, or I was angry because I was scared, or you saw mommy crying because as long as a child, especially until 6 years old, his left side, no, hold on. Yes, his left side of brain is not fully developed. This is the analytical one. Okay.
Okay.
So a child cannot understand if you don't explain. Okay. But if you explain by saying, sweetie, no, there is no ice cream at 9 p.m. because otherwise, da 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 da. Maybe your child, of course, is going to try one more time, or
Yeah.
another. Of course, it's a child. But he's going to understand, oh, mom is protecting me, actually. It seems like she knows better than me, which is very dangerous, of course, because this is creative abusive parents.
Yeah.
Here,
Yeah.
it's, like I'm just talking to the 90% of parents who really want, like to do their best. Just explain your child whatever you are going through. Because when you explain your emotions, it
Mm-hmm.
gives permission to your children, I can have emotions.
Yeah.
And
So
this as an
important.
adult, it's priceless.
Yeah.
Telling also that mom and dad, we're also a couple. So that's why also we're going on a date and you have the babysitter, like
Yeah.
it's not against you, but it's also for us. That's also boundaries here, like because we at the beginning of the 2000, yeah, 2000, 2001, it was a king child, like
Mm-hmm.
positive psychology, like I'm from France, it's bullshit. Sorry.
Yeah.
A child needs a structure.
Yeah.
And the structure happens with a no. Not like no, and that's it. No, I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to tell you why you have to go to bed at 7 p.m. and you cannot stay with mom and dad, like because you need
Yeah.
more time, like explaining. Yes, it's a lot of explanation, it's
Yeah.
a lot of communication. And of course, if you don't feel ready to do that, just don't have children.
Yeah.
Because I respect more adults that are like, you know what? I don't think I want to do that, like it's just too much.
Yeah.
Then people, then be like, oh my God, it is so boring, like to constantly repeat myself. Yeah, but that's the job of being a parent.
100%. And I'm a big believer in bigger kids, bigger problems. So do the work now. Like
Yes.
I love that you said the whole stricter thing because I'm quite strict, but I have learned about communication because growing up, I didn't have parents that parented. No one communicated anything to me. No one really taught me anything. Everyone was so busy fighting and caught up in their own problems and their own pain and own drama. Like I feel very lucky to have the life skills that I have today. I had to self-teach them. I'm self-taught and just world and life experiences. But I mean, I'm grateful that that even happened. I don't even know how it came to happen, but I'm really big on being a strict parent and communicating with my kids and explaining to them because I'm doing all of the work now and it is exhausting and it is so hard. But I would rather be doing this at 6 and 9 than 16 and 26.
And that's beautiful, what, Carrie? Because really, as long as your child feels seen, heard, recognized, and loved,
Yeah.
honestly, you're doing an amazing job. Like, you know what? Like, but they are the children.
Yeah.
They're not here to co-parent you. They're not here
Exactly.
to take care of you. They're not here to heal you. If you are depressed, your child is not here to make you laugh. I'm sorry, it's awful to say, like, but there is a clear boundary. And again, it's based on my own personal life, what, too,
Yeah.
and years of working with adults that their childhood was broken because they had irresponsible parents.
Yes. Yeah.
And we are in a society right now with so much more help,
Yeah.
so much more self-help books, like that. Honestly, it's not an excuse anymore. We know better.
Yeah. We really do. And you just brought up a good point. You said something to me one time during our session that kids give and adults take. What is something you there was a line
No,
that stuck
that's the
with me.
opposite.
It's
That's
the
the opposite.
opposite. What did you say? You say it. You're the professional, but
Yeah, yeah.
it always stuck with me that kids
Children take, parents give.
children take, parents give, and that's the way life flows. That's
That's
what
the
you said to
order.
me. Yeah.
That's the order.
That's the
Because
order.
you are going to give the gift of life.
Yes.
Basically, that's the best gift, like in
Yeah.
the area, okay? But if you're not willing to give your best to your child, you should not have a child. And when I heard, oh my God, I want a daughter, so then she's going to be my best friend, I'm like, no, no, my mom is not my best friend. I don't talk to my best friends the same way I talk to my mother.
Yeah. Yeah.
See, she's my mother. I love her so much,
Yeah.
but there is a respect here.
Yeah.
You don't have kids to have a best friend, please.
Yeah.
You
Or to
don't have kids
Yeah.
to keep your husband.
Yeah.
You don't have kids, like, no, you have kids because you really want to give, you really want to offer. And then children are selfish.
Yeah.
Children are selfish.
100%.
Good.
Yeah.
That's good. So they take, and when one day your children decide to become a parent, they will know what it means to finally give and be taken. That's here. That's the here. I was gonna say the B world, like it's
Yeah.
in now. Like that's exactly what my mom told me 2 days ago because my brother is a dad of 2 young kids.
Uh-huh.
I told my mom, now I understand. Yes. Yes.
It is so important what you just said. And I want to end on that because I want everyone to absorb everything about family constellation therapy, about parenting your kids and communication and explaining to them. And honestly, I hope if anything today taught you that, Maureen is a resource that you can reach out to help break generational cycles in your own family or to even just understand your story and where you come from. She has an amazing book on Amazon, her podcast, and you can book her for private sessions and these fabulous events. Everything is listed on your website, correct?
Yes, Carrie. Yes.
Yes, which I'll be plugging that in along with additional information that you guys can just look in the comment section so you can contact her. I want to thank you for joining me today. I've been wanting to speak to you again for the past 2 years, and I literally just made a note like, I got to book another constellation. I'm dying to know what my constellation would say this time and what it would show me, because the shift that you created in the first session in 2 hours, I mean, people, I don't know, traditional therapy is amazing if it works for you. And I think that's great, but why not add it on? Just try it once in 2 hours and see what you can find from really digging deep into your past and your family's past and any kind of trauma, because we all have trauma. And I learned today, we all have trauma.
We all do.
I want to thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your time. Thank you for joining this week's episode of Surviving Roots. Let's continue this conversation as a community. For more updates about the show, remember to subscribe on iTunes and leave a review. Also, there will be some special bonus footage from the show on Instagram at carrie.fund. I'll see you there.